Our gospel text of today contains a parable that could only have been the brainwave of Jesus. For what we know of the innovativeness and creativity of Jesus, only he could have told this parable, which is found in chapter 20, verses 1 to 16 of the Gospel of Matthew. It is about a landowner who wants to hire laborers to work in his vineyard. And he goes out to hire laborers 4 times in a day. The first is at daybreak when the work day began. The second is at the 3rd hour. The third is at the 6th hour. And the 4th is at the 11th hour, when there was only 1 more hour for the day to be over, because the 11th hour would mean 5 o'clock in the afternoon, when the work day ended at 6. So therefore, this landowner hires people and laborers at 4 different times: daybreak, the 3rd hour, the 6th hour, and the 11th hour. That means there are groups, which are 4 groups, some of whom have worked the whole day, beginning from the morning till the end of the day. Others have worked less in the first, but they have also worked for almost a full day. The 3rd group has worked possibly for half a day, and the 4th group have worked for only 1 hour. However, when the landowner went out to hire laborers, he made an agreement in advance that every one of them would be paid 1 denarius, though those who were hired at the different hours did not know how much the others would be paid. When the work day was over, the landowner invited those who had worked to come and receive their wages. If the landowner wanted to avoid trouble, he would have invited those whom he called at daybreak, paid them their 1 denarius, and sent them away quietly. He would have then invited those whom he invited at the 3rd hour, at the 6th hour, and finally, he would have paid those whom he invited last at the 11th hour, because he was paying them also 1 denarius. In other words, he was paying everybody 1 denarius, no matter how many hours they had worked. But what does this landowner do? And here is the novelty of Jesus. This landowner invites those to be paid who were hired at the 11th hour or who had worked for only 1 hour. And they were paid 1 denarius. Now, when the others saw that these worked only 1 hour and are paid 1 denarius, it is then and only then that they begin to imagine that they will be paid more, even though very clearly the landowner had agreed separately with each group the payment in advance. So when the group which is hired at the 6th hour comes, they receive 1 denarius. The group which is hired at the 3rd hour comes, they receive 1 denarius. And the last group is those who are hired at daybreak, also receive 1 denarius each. This is when the complaints begin. The complaints begin not because they were ill-treated. The complaints begin not because they were maltreated. The complaints begin not because an injustice was done to them, but the complaints begin because their eyes were not on what they were meant to get. Their eyes were on what others were getting, and already they had made a judgment about what others should have got. Or when others got what they rightly deserved, they thought that they even more than rightly deserved more. And so there was this jealousy, there was this envy, there was this complaint. And when they complained to the landowner that they have been shortchanged, when they complain to the landowner that he has done an injustice to them, the landowner responds by saying that it is not true. The landowner responds by saying that each one of them had agreed in advance for the 1 denarius, and that is why what they must do now is take the 1 denarius and go happily. If they do that, then they can share in the joy of others. One phrase which comes to mind even as I speak about this parable is, comparisons are odious. So very often we look at and compare ourselves with others, and we are quite content as long as we are not comparing with others. But the moment we begin to compare, he is taller, she is thinner, she has got more money, they have got a bigger car, they have got 2 scooters, when I keep on comparing myself with others, and especially when it comes to material things, even when it comes to talents and abilities and qualities, I am shortchanging myself. I am not appreciating my own uniqueness. I'm not appreciating my own individuality. I'm not appreciating the kind of person I am and all that God has given me. And so this parable is inviting us to look not at comparing with others, but to look at and be grateful for all that we have received by the Lord. And even as we receive what we receive from the Lord, we must keep in mind that it is not merely to be used selfishly and for ourselves, but for ourselves surely, and also as much as we can for the gift and the good of others. Will you stop any kind of comparison today, because comparisons are odious?